Andy, it's good to have you here, my friend.
Amazing to be here again with you and this amazing podcast at Franchise Creator.
Absolutely. So, Andy, you and I know each other now for going probably close to 10 years.
2015, I met you, so
There you go,
exactly 10
10
years.
years
Yeah.
ahead than that. And it's crazy, man. You entered our office, you started talking to me, and today I've had this same conversation with over 1,000 different companies, but you and I became very close friends,
Yeah,
and something clicked from day one.
that's
And
right.
I don't have that friendship with a whole lot of other clients. It's just you became very, very, very close, and we've kept in touch.
100%. I think it's a little bit like it's same thing as franchises, right? Because we have a bunch of franchises. Some of them you're closer to others, but at the end of the day, I think it's all about energy. Do they share the same vision?
That's right.
Are they like you? Do they have the same family values? And I think me and you, we're both family men. We love our
Exactly.
families. We love our children. We love to be home with our kids and
I know.
and our wives. And I think that's one of the most important things that we have in common.
You're a humble guy, and I consider myself the same. It doesn't matter because I remember you when you came to me. You're
10 years younger,
10 years younger.
no
You
white
still,
hair.
let me tell you something, man. For some reason, you have some recipe that I got to get from you, but I don't see any white ever changing in your hair. But yeah, you still look probably younger than you did back then. But what's crazy is that you enter at a very different financial position that you had back then.
Yeah,
Today, you sit here, and I want to talk about all of that. You own multiple different businesses,
that's right.
all of them thriving, doing great. The one that I work with you on,
Yeah,
the one that I help you with, which is physical therapy now, which we're going to talk about mostly today,
yeah.
is owning the world. You have tens of franchise. How many franchises you have?
50 locations now.
50 locations of physical therapy now. You had just started. As a matter of fact, back then, I remember you came to me. You were operating out of an urgent care center,
That's
a
right.
few urgent care
That's
centers.
right.
So you were like a little pop-up shop
That's
inside
right.
of a urgent care center. And you come to me in that situation. Today you're sitting on an empire. This is what I
Right.
call it.
Yeah.
So I want to start off because there's so much to talk about. But I want to start off. But again, your humbleness is what really
Oh,
has
thank you.
attracted me throughout this whole journey. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about where you
Oh,
started
wow.
because that's where I want to start. I
Yeah.
want the audience to really learn about Andy Zapata.
Well, immigrated from Colombia at the age of 2 years old. Lived in the 33175 Miami. My mother and my father got separated at a really young age. So my mother was a single mother with two kids, sharing a one-bedroom apartment with two other families.
Mm,
So we lived in the trailer park. So I consider myself a trailer park kid, which, there's a lot of depth into that. We'll get that into another day. But, when you're born in that poverty, you got two ways. You're either going to make it or you're not. And I was going to make it. And a lot of my friends didn't make it. And a lot of my friends are still there. And they still think that like that. And it's not even just the poverty financially, but it's a poor mindset that these kids have inside that environment. But I got very lucky that at a young age, I liked to fight. I thrived on fighting. It was exciting for me to fight. And one of my teachers said, "Hey, why don't you join the wrestling team?" And that completely changed my life because I learned what it was to control my anger. I learned what it was to control my school, how to respect adults. So all this was, I was always a very humble kid. But the way that you get to learn and treat other people really got rooted in sports and sportsmanship and the way that I conducted myself on and off the mat.
mhm.
And when I graduated, they gave me a scholarship for wrestling in the university, and I was blessed, and I put those same style of work and ethics and hard work and perseverance and grit and never giving up that I did on the wrestling mat that I always wanted to win. And when I lost, it was a learning lesson. It was like, okay, I deserve to lose, right? What can I learn from this? That same motto, that same energy, I took it into business. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can win, I can win. And until it's still to this day, I still have the same mindset that I did when I was a college wrestler, a college athlete, intense wrestler that you train 4, 5, 6 hours a day and you bleed and you cry and everything hurts at every moment of your life. I still do that now, and I think that's one of my recipes for success.
I love that story, man. You know, it's honestly, I get so this is what turns me on, right? I mean, I sit here and I talk to all these business owners
Yeah,
and entrepreneurs that come to me, and they give me their life story. They give me exactly what their recipe is, right? And for me, it's like an it's like an honor. This is what I thrive on. This is what I like when I hear somebody from a trailer park, that gets from that environment. Now let me tell you something. A lot of those people from the trailer park usually use that as an excuse
that's
to
right.
get free stuff. Hey man, I'm from the trailer park. I've had a bad beginning. I didn't have the advantages that the guy that lives in Beverly Hills did, or I didn't have this advantage or that advantage. So for that reason, hey, get me into school for free. Hey, get me here. Get me in front of the line. You know what I mean? But you broke that whole sequence and said, that's not what I want. I don't want to be pushed in front of the line. I want to get in front of the line. I want to deserve to be there. And that to me is my mindset, right? I'm an immigrant to this country. So when I came here, I was way in the back of the line,
That's right.
right? So I didn't have any of the things that the kid that was born here had. So I had to hurry up and get there as quick as possible just so I can catch up. So instead of going with my hand out to the government and saying, hey, give me more because I need help, I help myself, right? So that to me is something that gives me a lot of pride, right?
Yeah,
That's what I enjoy. So tell me this. So you came from the trailer park, you utilized the anger that you had
that's right.
inside you for
The
fighting and
fire.
put that fire, you put it into wrestling. Wrestling fueled your passion, and then you used those same know-how and brought it to business. Did you, before we talk about your business, your first job, did you have a job that your first business? Let's talk about your job. Did you have a job or something, and at one point you decided to become a businessman,
No,
or what?
I mean, I worked at car washes when I was like 14, 15 years old. I worked at university. I was a student ambassador, so I would give a tour to all the kids that came into the school. I was making like pennies just to like be able to buy some food in college, but I really didn't have like a career job. I didn't have like a steady job. It was always like wrestling school. And then when I opened up my first business, it was really my first physical therapy center, and it was in Doral, Florida. I hadn't even graduated University of FIU, which I came down to FIU finally, and I hadn't graduated. I said I'm gonna open up a clinic whether I have a license or not, and everybody told me you're absolutely nuts. You should get some experience. You don't know what you're doing, and you shouldn't open up a clinic. My colleagues they would laugh at me because I said I'm gonna open up a clinic. And they were like, "You're nuts," and I said, "No, I'm just gonna open a clinic. I don't. I mean, I'm a therapist by trade. I studied occupational therapy, but I always knew I wanted to be a business owner. I didn't know what, but I knew I wanted to be a business owner and do good in the world for other people. And it was a perfect recipe because as a therapist, you get to help a lot of people. And then basically what happened is a few years later, on a credit card that my mom gave me, remember, we were still very poor, very humble at that time. And my mom gets a advertisement that says Capital One, $10,000 pre-approved. I was 22 years old, 23 years old. And I said, Mom, you never told me you had $10,000. She says, I don't have $10,000. I said, it says pre-approved. That means you have $10,000. And she says, no, that's advertisement. Throw it away. I get those all the time. And I said, no, Mom, it says you have $10,000. It says pre-approved. That means you got it. And she goes, Andy, throw that away. It's advertisement. I'm not going to incur any debt. I'm scared of debt, whatever. So I kept bothering her. 2 weeks later, she says, if I sign this, will you stop? And I said, yeah, listen, I've gone to university. I did everything right you wanted me to do. I put a little guilt trip on her. I did everything right you wanted me to do. Just sign this application so I can get 10,000 so I can open up a business. So I get the $10,000. 2 weeks later, there's a Capital One $10,000 credit card. And I go to one of my colleagues and I said, I got $10,000, 23 years old. He says, how did you do it? I said, well, I sent this application in and he got it. I said, why don't you get your mom to do it? So he got his mom to do it. Now we had $20,000. This whole empire started on $20,000, on $10,000 credit card.
Borrowed money on
Borrowed
a
money
credit card.
on a credit
This is
card.
what I tell people not to do, and you actually did it. I mean, who wants those little ads that come in? I don't even look at them; throw them right in the trash. But
Yeah.
that's the advantage that that $10,000 credit card thing. That moment that you saw that envelope there changed your life.
Completely changed my life. Well, 6 months later, I pay my mom her 10,000. I give her another 50,000, and business was booming. Within a year later, I'm making $150,000, $200,000. Within 3 years, I'm making $600,000, $700,000. I learned the formula of how to open up clinics. Obviously, had to ask a lot of people. Everybody would give me a little piece, a little piece, a little piece, but nobody gave me the whole pie of how you do it. So I said, man, this is so hard of learning. It took me 3, 4, 5 years to learn the whole dynamic. So I started opening clinics and selling clinics. And I'll tell people, look, I'll give you a little piece. I'll give you a little piece too, because I didn't want to spill the whole pie, but I would sell you a clinic for 100,000 or 75,000 or 50,000. I must have sold 40 of those centers between 2005, 2010. Legislation changes, president changes, 2010. They put a stop on these clinics. They couldn't open them anymore. So I said, that side of the business is done.
The government.
And I started focusing from 2010 to 2015 on my own corporate centers. So I scaled to 5 centers. I was doing very well. I had all the toys that a guy can want, and very.
And was it called physical therapy now at the
It
time?
was called Miami Rehab Center.
Okay.
Had 5 centers under Miami Rehab Center, and then in 2015, I have everything I wanted: kids, beautiful house, beautiful home, beautiful household, family. And I said, God, please give me a sign of what's my next challenge, what's my next thing, what do I want to do next? And I remember just sitting for months and just sitting and just being quiet and pensive. It's like, okay, I'm bored. What do I do now? I have 5 centers. Like, what else can a guy want? I have everything I wanted. I'm still blessed, and I have everything I've always wanted, and I'm still blessed. But I remember sitting by my pool, drinking a scotch, and he says, what is it that you know how to do? I said, I know how to open clinics. And then all of a sudden I said, I got to help more people open clinics. And I know I've never told you this story, but at that time I got a phone call. Sir, this is Franchise Creator. Have you ever thought of opening up your own franchise? I said, how did you get my number? How'd you get my number? Oh, we looked you up on LinkedIn and we're local. And I said, how did you get my number? This is crazy that somebody cold called me with this. And it ends up being Franchise Creator. I said, I'll meet with you tomorrow. The young lady comes over, we meet up, and the rest is history. I got my FDD ready, and we launched. And I think I was already on a good trajectory, and I was always growing every year, year after year, since 2003 to 2015. I was growing, scaling. I was making millions, but I wasn't making the millions that I'm making now. And what happened is learning the franchise industry really completely changed my life, because I learned about I learned the good, the bad about franchising.
And the ugly.
Which is and I will always be in franchise for the rest of my life, because it's so rewarding, so lucrative at the same time. But I also learned the things not to do in franchising. I did a lot of mistakes, and that's why it's important. You helped me avoid a lot of those mistakes as well. But I still made a lot of mistakes because I was going too fast.
Yeah.
But here's what I learned about franchising. Franchising is a great industry, but you have all types of personalities, and you have different motives of why people behave the way that they do. And during my journey, I think it was like 3 years into the journey, I had franchises that were making very successful money. They were very successful. And then another franchise that was 2.5 miles, 3 miles away in the same vicinity, same neighborhood, that couldn't make it. Even though I trained them both the same, I gave them the same operation manual, I gave them the same support, but one was making a lot of money and the other one wasn't. And it's not like they were completely different demographics, because I understand maybe you're in Arkansas and Miami are 2 different places. But you're in Miami, 3 miles down, you're in another one, and this one's not making it, but this one's making a lot of money.
It's a perfect A-B comparison, yeah.
So I remember again asking God, please help me help these people. Please help me help them. How can I help these people understand that they just have to follow what I tell them to do, and they do it?
And that's it.
It's not that easy. Obviously, The Founder is a perfect example of that movie, of like what people try to do in a franchise. They create their own recipe, but the recipe's already created, right? So I remember, and I ran into my mentor, and I was searching for something, an answer, and all of a sudden, it's very similar. I get a call, or I actually get a text, join this webinar right now. So I join, I click the text, and it's a blind guy talking. The most interesting words I've ever heard. I said, what is this guy saying? So I start joining these calls. I later then hire him, a couple $100,000 in. It's been the best mentor I've ever had. Is a blind attorney who taught me everything about how to connect with humanity. And that completely changed my life,
Wow,
even on a deeper level. Like, how do you like for my mentor says, one of his greatest gifts was going blind because now he can listen to your emotion. He can hear what you're feeling. So how do you hear people what they're feeling? So he taught me what it is to hear what people are thinking, and it's very deep, and it goes very deep. But this thing about helping people gave me another window of scaling my business and knowing how to connect with humanity, knowing how to connect with clients, knowing how to connect with customers and potential franchisees. That you mix the industry that you brought me into, you mix the industry of what my coach, my mentor gave me, and the rest is history. I have 35 different businesses now. They're all making millions. I'm mentoring hundreds of professionals and executives, from attorneys to doctors to surgeons, people that own urgent cares that I used to own. So I mentored a bunch of people, and brother, my life is better than ever. It's always been amazing, but it's still amazing. I'm doing everything I ever wanted to do, and a big part of this is physical therapy now, and how we started with Franchise Creator.
Wow. So that was crazy. That is a heck of a journey, man.
Yeah.
All in one shot. I tell you what, man, I got goosebumps. Some of this I had no idea about, and I've known you for 10 years. I sincerely mean it. One of the things I want to make a comment about what you said about some of your franchisees, different mindsets and controlling them. One of the things that's very unique about franchising is that the people that buy your franchise are actually entrepreneurs, right? Employees are different than entrepreneurs. Employees are like, tell me what to do and I do them, and they follow your guidance, and that's it. They basically turn off um, their
thinking
their
cap, their
thinking.
creativity.
That's their creativity. That's the word I'm looking for, and they just follow your guidance. But entrepreneurs are the guys that are buying your franchise. They're not entrepreneur enough to open their own business, but they have that chemicals inside their brain that says, I need to be on my own. So they buy a franchise. So the problem here is they're entrepreneurs. So in other words, they have a lot of creativity. They have a lot of thinking that they want to put behind it, right? I mean, as you know, McDonald's, filet of fish, or Big Mac, all of these came from ideas that franchisees came up with, right?
That's
so that
right.
entrepreneurship sometimes is useful.
It's amazing.
But sometimes, you got to know how to manage them. If you don't manage them correctly, they can get out of hand. So as a franchisor, you have to be able to know how to manage people and how to manage entrepreneurs that are similar to you in their thinking, right?
Yeah, everybody wants to have their own recipe. I think you're the one that told me this. You have a recipe, you want to sell that recipe, and you tell the person, don't change my recipe. You put this much of sugar, this much of salt, and this much of flour.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the franchisee says, well, I want to put more sugar, more salt, more flour because I want to make a different recipe. Well, you're not going to get the same cake. You're not going to get the same recipe. And the same thing happened to the founder. After I saw the movie, I was like, everything makes sense now because entrepreneurs do have a lot of creativity. But some of that creativity could be good if you know how to harness it and say, look, let's use that for this. But sometimes it's completely out of whack.
Of course.
And then you get into problems. Like I had a franchisee that said, hey, Andy, I'm going to open an accounting company. I said, amazing. Go ahead. Open an accounting company. I have multiple businesses. I walk into the franchise and there's an accounting desk in the middle of the physical therapy center, like cubicles and everything. I said, brother, what the hell's this? Why is there cubicles in the middle of a physical therapy center? Oh, I told you I was going to open an accounting company. I said, yeah, but not in front of a physical therapy center. So I had to send him a cease and desist. Wasn't happy. Ended up having to buy his franchise back because then he became a nuisance. And it's crazy the way franchisees think that they want to create their own formula, their own recipe. But you're right. If you get an employee that just follows it, I'm still trying to figure that out of who's the right franchisee. It's always a challenge because now I say no a lot more than I used to say yes. And I used to say yes to anybody who had a couple $100,000 in the bank. I said, come on in, I can teach you this. That's not the answer. Now I'm very more conservative as to who we sell franchises to.
100%. In the beginning, you're so desperate, right? You're excited. You just want to get your first one, second one, third franchise in. But so you're not selective. But then once you sell 10 of these things and you realize that you got some challenges. I mean, you have to deal with personalities and things like that then you become a little bit more selective, and you're not going to sell a franchise to anybody with a heartbeat and a checkbook.
That's right.
Right? You're just going to be, you're going to know their background. Hey, have you ever had a business before? Why are you buying this? What is your passion? What do you expect to get out of it? That's very important. What is it that you're going to expect to get out of this? Some of these guys buy a franchise and they think buying a franchise means sit back, relax, and money is going to come in. Just look at your bank account and see the zeros go up. They don't realize that it's a business. Whether it's called a franchise or a business, all a franchise is doing is giving you the know-how. All of that sweat and equity that the owner put in, now you're going to be banking on that. You're going to be taking advantage of that. All the losses that person had, you're not going to have. All the learnings that person had, you don't have to go through it. You're just going to learn it, and you're going to apply it so that you don't make the same mistakes and you don't lose the money that he lost or she lost.
Or the time, more than
anything else. You've lost a lot of that. So would you say the biggest challenge is really handling your franchisees or choosing franchisees? What do you think is the biggest
challenge in franchising is holding your franchisees accountable. And this is something that I had a very hard time holding people accountable. Because if I told you to do something once, twice, and you didn't do it, I'd completely disconnect from you. I said, I can't deal with these guys. He doesn't want to do it. That was looking back in hindsight, that was wrong of me to give up, because maybe they needed another push. Maybe they weren't the right person to sell in the first place. So, franchises are interesting because you're going to get amazing ones. You're going to get tough ones. And everybody goes through this. Every single franchise goes through the same thing. You're going to have tough ones and not tough ones, but you have to learn how to hold them accountable and hold your system accountable. Like, this is my system. Before you sell this franchise, do you understand every single dot and go through the operation manual, go through the franchise manual with time? I think the interview should probably take a couple of weeks just to make sure that this person is going to follow. And a lot of times they say yes, 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 because they're interview experts, and then they don't do it. Mm-hmm. But at least you try to make sure you get the right one. And now there's personality tests. Now there's like things that you can do to like simulate, is this a good candidate? And those personality tests I think are good. But ultimately, I would divide franchises into 4 categories. The people that love you on the top, and the people that hate you on the bottom.
On the bottom.
Right? I mean, hate is a strong word, but people that dislike you.
Dislike you, yeah.
And then you put a straight line down the middle, and you put the people on the left that are making money, and the people on the right that are not making money. So let's talk about the people on the top of the franchise. You got people on the top that love you, and they love you whether they're making money, and they're saying, Jesus, Andy, I've never made so much money. Thank you so much. You made me a millionaire. I appreciate this. I love you. And they actually tell me they love me. This is a beautiful feeling. That's the like holy grail. This is what you want in every franchise. And then you have people that like you, but they're honest and they're integrous. And they're like, look, Andy, this business is not for me, but brother, you gave it all you got. You gave me the operation. You gave me the support. You gave me the people. I just don't like this business, brother. I'm out, but I love you, okay? Whoa, this is amazing. Like, you love me even if you lost money. And then you have the people that dislike you. And they dislike you for the same reasons. One, they're making way too much money. Now they don't want to pay you the royalties. That's right. 10 years. They're like, I literally had people come to me and say, I don't like you that much. I said, why? What? He goes, I don't know why I'm paying you so much money.
They're not grateful. That's what
I just showed you a whole business that you had no idea about. Now you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and you're trying to figure out a way to get out of the franchise agreement and not pay me the $6,000 or $7,000 you owe me every month. What's going on? So you got people that don't like you because you got to pay you, and you got people that don't like you because they haven't followed your formula, or your formula doesn't work. In my case, it does work, but if they don't work and they don't like you because they're not making money. So those are the 4 quadrants of franchises that I've divided in my head after, banging my head out against the wall, a couple years.
Very well said, Andy. Of all the years that, I've been doing this podcasting and talk to clients, nobody's ever put it that way. And it's so damn true. And it reminds me of when I had my first franchise that I launched, and I had, lots of franchises around the world, worldwide, 11 countries. I had the same issue, is that, people are making money and they're still complaining because they get to a point that like, what are you doing for me? And then people are not making money and those are complaining as well. So it's like, you don't know, what is it that I'm supposed to do for you? If I make you money, you're unhappy. If I don't make you money, you're unhappy. So how do you, and those people are going to be unhappy in life. There's nothing's ever going to change them, right? That's just who they are. They're not grateful is the way I look at it. But Um, Great stuff, man. Tell me about your. Um, let's finish with physical therapy now, and then you want to talk about some other businesses you have. Tell me about your goal. Where do you want to be a year from now, 2 years
You
from
know,
now?
I still have this number in my head, 500 locations. You know, we're at 50, we're 10% of the way there. You know, every level has a devil, and we've gone through a few devils to get over them. But I think right now with the technology, with the AI, we're living a greatest moment to scale fast and scale hard and really identify who the right franchisees are. So we're investing a lot into marketing right now so we can get to the next 100, 200 level. But I think in the next 5 years, I'll be like around 500.
500 locations. That's a very, very good goal to have. And there are physical therapy franchises that are there. That means
100%.
it's not like, you
Oh,
asking
yeah.
for something that's not real. You can get there for sure with your personality, with your entrepreneurship, with your winning attitude. And
Yeah.
again, I go back to where you came from, your humble beginnings to where you are today. Look, man, if I'm looking for a physical therapy franchise, I don't know why anybody would buy anything else. It just makes no sense, right? You want
Yeah.
someone that's done it. You want someone that came from the bottom. They didn't inherit this from their father or grandfather, and they're kind of doing it, but they're not liking it.
Yeah.
But the money is there, so they keep on doing what the same thing they've been doing. No, no, no. This is something you created from scratch. It's in your heart. It's a passion that you still have, and that same passion is what you put. And you know what? And I know the type of guy you are. I don't need to ask you this question. I'm going to say it, and that is you're still in touch with your franchisees. In other words, they have
100%.
your cell phone.
They all have my cell
They
phone.
all have your cell phone, so they're calling you on a Saturday. Hey, listen, I have this problem, or I have that problem, and that's the kind of
And
guy
I
you are.
love when they call me because I get to help them. You know, the worst franchisees are the ones that don't call you, right? And then they're not doing good, and then they're like, "Why didn't you call me?" Right?
Exactly.
Those are the worst. I don't mind that you call me. I don't mind. I mean, I have a whole team for support, for marketing, for accounting, for HR that they're there to support you. But call me from time to time. Tell me you're doing good. Tell me you're doing bad. So a lot of them tell me they're doing amazing, and a lot of them tell me, "Hey, can you help me here? I have a little hiccup. You know what's going on." But those calls, I really truly appreciate them every single time.
It's the pride. It's the pride. It goes back to the entrepreneurship. The people that are buying the franchises that have so much pride inside.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not gonna let this guy, know that I'm failing, or I'm not gonna let this guy know that I'm not doing as good as the other 50 franchises. I want to be the top 1%. I want to be the top five
Yeah.
percent. And for that reason, that pride sometimes make them stumble upon. They got a reality, a fact that hey, this is not the way you're supposed to do it. So do they have to be a physical therapy individual? Do they have to have a license to buy this business?
In some states, you should have a license or you have to have a license. California, New York, New Jersey, those states require you to be a physical therapist for you to own a physical therapy center.
Does the corporate practice of medicine apply to this business? Which
Um,
is
in a lot of states, it does. For example, Florida, anybody can own a corporation that owns a physical therapy center. They can own a hospital. They can own urgent
that's right.
care. They can own anything they want in Florida, Texas. A lot of states are good to own for any entrepreneur. You can own a hospital if you want. However, some states, are you have to be a physical therapist to own it. However, there's still ways around it. Like you get a physical therapist to own it, and you just manage the practice. And then you get the same results. And that's how I would say 50% of the practices in New York, New Jersey operate under a management agreement. And you have one manager who's responsible for all the operations, and you got the owner who's the real owner of the corporation.
What percentage of your franchisees are actually physical therapists?
Oh, I think about 35, 40%. I think we're
Yeah,
there.
so that's the case in most medical. So here's the deal. The deal is if you go back 20, 25 years, 30 years ago, medical franchises didn't exist.
That's right.
And what happens when franchising was introduced in the medical world, it thrived, right? Now you see urgent cares in every corner because now you have business people that are handling the medical side of the thing, right? So you had doctors that are very good in medicine, but they're not very good in business, most of them. So they didn't know how to handle their operation. So now that you have an opportunity as a non-clinician, as a businessman, to come into a medical world and enter that world and apply your skills to it, you're going to see a tremendous uh, success that comes with that, right? So that's what's happened in the world of medicine when it entered franchising.
That's right.
there is the concept of corporate practice of medicine, where in some states you have to be a clinician to own one of these clinics, whether it's a physical therapy center, urgent care center, or anything else. But there's a way to get around it, just like you said.
100%. There's legal ways to get around it.
100%. And that way you have the management agreement that takes place, and through that management agreement, anybody, even non-clinician, can own a clinic any state in
In the
America.
country. Yeah, in the country.
Yeah. So I think we talked a lot about physical therapy and this business. Tell me about some of the other things you're doing. So that entrepreneur spirit is inside you. The fire is raging, and you're like, this is not enough. 50 locations to get to 500. Andy Zapata wants more. I want more of this. So what did you do?
It's like I feel like there's two types of lions. The lions that are caged and the lions that are free and wild. I'm the guy that's free and wild. That's why. So I continue to scale, and but everything I do revolves around physical therapy now. For example, I have a company called Home Health now. So a patient comes in, they get physical therapy, and I say, you know what, this patient actually should be home. They shouldn't be here. So we opened up a department. Now it's a whole company called Home Health now. So we have about 100 professionals, physical therapists, occupational nurses. They go to the patients' homes and they treat these open wounds. They treat geriatric patients after a stroke or injury, and we treat them all over Dade and Broward County. And then we have, we get these referrals, and we're sending referrals to MRI centers and diagnostic centers and X-rays all day long, because everybody comes with an injury. And all of a sudden, for the last 10, 15 years or 20 years, I've been sending X-rays and MRIs to everybody in the city of Miami. And I said,
let me open an X-ray business.
I said, why am I sending this business everywhere else? I can own an MRI center. I can own an X-ray center. So I opened up MRI Now, and we do X-rays and MRIs there. So everything revolves around physical therapy. And then I had the opportunity. I went to a radio station, and this is where manifestation is very important in business and in life. And I went to a radio station to do an ad, kind of like what we're doing today, little speaking on, in radio. And it was a room just like this. It was a small little radio station with like 1, 2 chairs. I said, I can't believe this is a radio station. I want a radio station. If this guy has a radio station, I can have a radio station.
Andy wants a radio station, and he's going to get one.
3 months later, I'm the owner of Radio Mundo, 10 a.m. in Miami. And again, the reason I bought the radio station was to advertise all my businesses. Well, guess what happens? Then more opportunities come. And it's like the red car theory, that you never see a car in the street if it's red, unless they ask you. It's the same thing with business. Like, I see so many red cars coming at me now. I see so many opportunities, especially now that I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs who want to be on the radio. And so now I have the radio station, the home health company, the MRI company, and I have a giant software company that handles over 3,000 medical practices software. And so pretty busy, but you know what? I get home at 5 every day, 4:30, 5 o'clock every single day. Before, I had one clinic and I would work till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Now I have 35 different companies, and I get home at 4:30, 5 o'clock to take my kids to soccer.
How do you do it?
It's very simple.
What's the secret, right?
Okay, so first let me tell you this. There's people that are making a lot of money, but they know nothing about business. They know nothing about business. They know how to do one thing very good, and they learn how to sell that pen, and they'll sell you that pen 100 times,
correct.
and they but you tell them to sell you a notepad, they don't know how to sell a notepad. Tell them to sell you a chair, they can't. So business is something that you have to continue to learn about business. Go to all the masterminds. Go to as many courses as you can. Take as many personal development courses as you can, because your business is only as good as your mind. And if your mind is suffering, if you got a limited mindset, limiting beliefs, you had all these things going on with your internal self, you're never gonna grow. So like I said, every level has a devil, and you got to get over those devils. You got to get over those levels to get to the next level. But one of the main things is understanding what holds you back. Why do you perform the way you perform? Why do you think the way you think? Is the way you're thinking correct, or is it not correct? So business is a journey. It's always a journey, and you never stop learning. You never stop getting better at business. You have to continue to learn and continue to read books, listen to books, and scale. But what makes me? How do I have 35 different companies and they're all making millions? You follow the military model. You have a CEO, then you have a COO, then you have directors under them, and then you have employees under each department, each director. So you follow that same military model, right? The police department model, commander, the chief, the lieutenant, same exact thing in business. We use a model called the EOS model. entrepreneur operating system. And the entrepreneur operating system has a CEO of every company. I'm a CEO of a lot of my companies. Some of them I'm not the CEO of because I don't want to deal with that. Then you have an integrator, what they call an integrator, or a COO in other languages. And then that CEO is responsible for having their meetings every week with all your departments. I have one meeting with my with my COO and a CEO every week. One. So I have 1 or 2 hour meetings for each company, and that's how I'm able to handle 35 companies. So I have a director or a COO in every company. I say, well, how is this going? A lot of measurements. So give me all my numbers. So when you come to my meeting, you have to have all my numbers, the past numbers and the future numbers. Okay, you did this many sales. What are you doing for next week? Okay, how did you get there? Boom, boom. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about innovation. What are you innovating? What are you updating? What are you changing? What are you growing? Who are you modeling? How's your time blocking? So I always focus on those 4 things before with every single meeting. How's your time blocking? Tell me how your time blocking is. What do we need more time for? Do we need more people? What are you innovating? Who are you modeling? What company is doing better than us that you're looking at? In my case, there's like one that's doing better than me. So I'm always looking at them to see what they're doing better. And then like I said, innovation, time blocking, yeah, this is how I run my meetings. So entrepreneur operating system is a great system to be able to scale and grow at a different level.
So you spend most of your week just in management meetings, right? You
That's
basically
it.
just meeting with these managers, putting them responsible for the tasks that you give them, and then you measure them. You let these guys loose, let them do their own thing, but under your guidance. That's a weekly thing. If there is an emergency, of course, they call you and they have any questions or anything
Yeah, they
else.
get to call me during the week, but usually, for little things that they can't solve on their own. But the idea is I become a mentor now, and I train and motivate. And what do I mean by train and motivate? My job as a visionary, as a CEO, is just to tell you that you can get this done, because a lot of people have those limiting beliefs that we were just talking about. They don't believe they can do it. They don't believe they can handle 100, 200, 300 employees. But your job as a CEO is to tell them, brother, I know you got this. Let me teach you how, and hold them accountable to that. That's all my job is. Motivate the person and hold them accountable and train them so that they can do their job. And then they get the tools, they get everything needed, and that's how I'm able to handle this.
How do you choose these people? I mean, you're hiring a CEO to run your company or a COO, and you kind of giving them the key to the castle, right? How do you choose these people to make sure that they're right people for the right job? Because it's your money that's out there.
I'll give you the short answer. Very, very slow. So I heard this model maybe 20 years ago: hire slow, fire fast, right? You heard that?
Of course.
When I hire slow, like for example, I'm hiring an executive for one of the companies now. I've had 4 interviews, 2 hours each. So that's what I mean by hiring slow. And every time I pull out my list of things I want to discuss, and I say, can we read the sentence together? What does this mean to you? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And it's very time consuming, but once you hire them and you're just like, oh, this guy's not going to do it. He didn't give me the right answer for this. Okay, next. Okay, give me the next guy. And then you have an HR team that's bringing you resumes. Like, you have to have resumes, somebody bringing you those resumes that are qualified on your desk every day. So you read them, you say, okay, I want to meet this person, I want to meet that person. And then you start having your 6 hour meeting, 2 hours, then 2 hours. Then you got to qualify. Then you got to go to HR. Then you got to qualify with HR. So you hire very slow, and you make sure that you take the interview not quick. This is the mistake I did a lot of times, and I had a lot of bad COOs.
Oh, I've made that
Horrible.
mistake too. Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you know how to do this, you know how to do that. Okay, you're hired. Boom, let's go. It's the wrong way to do it. You got to make sure that now that the culture, now we have a bigger company, are you like me? Do you think like me? What are your politics like? Like, now I even ask about politics. Like, I don't ask as a part of the interview, but I measure, like, what do do
Yeah.
you want free things? Is this what you want? Or do you want to work hard and make a future for your family and for you? So those are questions that, I try to build into a culture, because I want guys like me. I want guys that want to win. I want guys that want to make more money. I don't cap anybody. None of my employees are capped. Everybody starts with a salary, but nobody's capped. Zero. So you can make as much money as you want with me. And if you want to make more money, ask me how, and I'll tell you how. And that's how I talk to every single one of my employees. But guess what? 90% of employees are happy where they're at, because they don't want to work that extra mile.
That's why they're employees, and that's the thing.
And I love them. I love all my team members, but That's
No,
where
it's
we're
a
at.
huge difference between employees and employers, man. I mean, it's a different mindset. It's completely a different mindset. Yeah, to be an employer, you have to really be able to take a lot of risks, right?
That's right.
Like, I had myself. I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but I was in a corporate America, right, job, and I had 35 engineers working for me. I'm a hardware engineer. I'm doing designing and designing the first generations of an international cell phone. I did pagers and so forth and so on. And um, I had this idea in my mind that I was going to create this product that was going to do something, right? And I left that position. I left all of that free stuff, the insurance, the free insurance, the 401k, the paid time off, all of that. I left that. I took that chance and started something from scratch. This is a time that I had my first child. He was just born. Um, I was married for 3 years. My first child is born. Just had purchased my first house. All this pressure is on me. I'm really the only breadwinner in the family. In other words, my wife wasn't working; she was taking care of my first child. And I had this idea, and I'm like so passionate about it, right? And I wanted to make this idea work. It was a tech
Yeah.
company, right? So I had to create this myself, and I stayed up till 3 in the morning every night. After I put my son to sleep, I would go to the third bedroom, and I would write code. I would design circuit, test it, doesn't work, do it again, test it, doesn't work. And 3 in the morning, I would, that's when I would go actually, to sleep, right? And I would get literally 4 hours of sleep every single night. Taking that chance
Yeah.
is what most people don't want to do. It's so
That's right.
easy to go to sleep at
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It's so easy, just wait for that paycheck to come. It's guaranteed, right? And then you have your weekend and you can go enjoy it. But to take that leap of faith, leave that job, take that chance, that to me is the difference between employees and employers. And the difference between now people look at the 1% and say, oh, that guy is, one top 1%.
Yeah.
They don't realize what he went through to
All the
get
risk,
there.
all the losses.
All the chances. I see a guy with a nice car in the street, or I pass by a nice house. I want to hear their story. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I wish I could bring that guy to my podcast. I want to hear how he got here, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at people that are incredibly wealthy. A lot of other people look at him and get jealous, and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe this guy's got this
Yeah.
house and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that." But for me, I look at it completely the opposite, right? Very, very different.
Well, I think you touched on three things that were very important for anybody who's thinking in becoming an entrepreneur. One, you have to take risks. There has to be a risk. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Two, you have to have a little passion for what you're doing. If you don't have passion for what you're doing, don't do it. You're not gonna have fun. You're not gonna enjoy. You're gonna get burned out quick. And third is a little creativity. If you have those three elements, then you can become an entrepreneur. Because a little creativity is gonna get you a long way, a
Yeah.
long way. So a little risk, a little risk, a little creativity, and a little passion. Those three things will get you off your chair and start running into the entrepreneurship world.
100%. You know what I tell people, Andy, because a lot of people come to me and they say, "Hey, listen, what can I start?" Whether they're buying a franchise or just want to start a business. And what I tell people is start with what your passion is, right? If this is your first business or even second business, you just like you said, they need to be passionate about it. They need to be engaged in it. They need to love it. They need when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, you don't want to be snoozing it. You want to be like jumping out of bed because you're so excited to get to work and get to whatever you're doing. If it's a business or something that you have absolutely no background in, you're going to be hitting that snooze button because you're just not passionate about it. So your first business is about passion. Whatever turns you on, whatever it is that you're excited about. Now, when you get later in my age, right? So now you've had multiple businesses and now you're becoming an investor. Now you're becoming an entrepreneur that is investing in this idea and that idea. And if you look at Warren Buffett, he's got his hand in so many cookie jars, some of which he has no idea about those businesses, and that's okay. Later on, when you have the opportunity to put these CEOs and COOs to run your businesses, that's fine. You can go off and do businesses that are outside of your comfort zone.
That's right.
But in the beginning, your first business has to be something that you're very comfortable with.
Yeah, and you continue to scale and learn about your product and your system and your service. This is something that a lot of people stop. They're like, they got it, they figured out how to make money, and then technology starts eating them alive. Time starts eating them alive. That's what you see, like Kodak went out of business. Blockbuster went out of
Yeah.
business. All these incredible companies because they get comfortable. They never innovate. So if you forget the word innovation in your formula, you're gonna drown.
Yeah,
Always be
100%.
innovating.
100%, 100%. So one time I was on a this is a while ago on a podcast, and the person asked me all these great questions. Right, there was one question he asked me that I had no answer for, and I really it came down to and it was right there in front of me, and he asked me, "What is your passion? I'm sorry, what is your hobby? What is it that you do?" Outside of work, outside of entrepreneurship, what turns you on? There has to be something, right? And I really didn't have an answer for this guy. I'm like, and I thought about it, and I realized what is it, and I thought about what is it that I do when I'm not working, when I'm with my family.
Yeah.
So I guess it's okay to say your family is your hobby because that's really what turns me on. To be with them, to watch TV with my kids, with my wife, or go out and eat something, or go out on a vacation somewhere, or something like that. That to me is the definition of what my hobby is. But I want to ask that question to you as well. I know your answer is also family, but is there anything else that turns you on?
There is. It's for me. It's being around my kids, being in the soccer park with them. They're intense athletes, just like I was. Go to practice 7 days a week. I take them to soccer practice every single day of the week. I get home at 4:30, 5 o'clock, like I said, so I had the time. But being on the boat with my family, that's the big. So now we have we live in Miami.
So you got a boat.
So we have a very nice boat. We have it
Nice.
in Biscayne Bay.
Nice.
And we go out every weekend on the boat with the kids and the family and the friends. And it's a different environment. You kind of disconnect from the actual city, and you have a body of water that divides you, and you get to play in the water. But that's my time, making barbecue for my friends, making barbecue for my family, for my kids on the boat. And now, like, what's my hobby? Just boater. How can I get a bigger boat to have more people on the boat? It's kind of the things I think about. But it's always about the family and the kids and my friends, my best friends. That's all I want to do. There's nothing else that I want in life than to be around my family, my kids, my friends. That's it.
And it's the simple things in life. So what's crazy? What you just told me tells me that obviously you're sitting on an empire right now, just with physical therapy. Now you have 35 businesses. Each one is a multi-million-dollar business. You got obviously all the funds in the world to do whatever you want. But look at the two of us, two entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs that are sitting on two sides of this table, and both of us said on our off time we just want to be with our family, or you going on your boat. All of that stuff is almost free. The boat you have to pay for, but you pay for it one time or a monthly fee, whatever you pay. But you don't need millions and millions and millions to do either what you want to do or what I want to do on our off times. But yet we're so passionate to wake up in the morning and open yet another business, 36, 37, 38th business. But we're doing this because we're entrepreneurs. That is what turns us on. At one point, it isn't about the zeros in your bank account, Andy, right? It's all about the accomplishments, how you got there. And you turn an idea into something that all of a sudden has 50 employees, 100 employees.
That's right. It's the journey. A lot of the time, people think it's the end zone. You're never going to get to the end zone. So it's always a marathon. But it's a marathon that you never stop running. That's just what entrepreneurship is. And, you just got to enjoy the journey. You're never going to finish. You're always going to be an entrepreneur until you finally stop or you die. I know 80-year-olds that are running. I know people that are very, 80s, 85s that are running businesses and happy, but you never stop. It's a journey. Enjoy who you're with. Try to be surrounded with a culture of people that you're like-minded. So you can talk about politics. You can talk about jokes. You can talk about family. You can talk about what's your next venture. These are the things I talk about with my friends. And it's always fun and it's always amazing. And my kids now talk about business and they're only 10 years old and 7 years old and they're looking at what business they want to do. And this is what makes me happy.
I love it.
And helping others that need help. Like other entrepreneurs come at me and say, how did you do this? How do you do that? I'm going to teach you everything that I know. You don't have to pay me nothing. Because one of the things I realize is that the more money you make, the more knowledge you want to share. It makes us feel good
That's right.
to share this knowledge. This is why guys like you, guys like me, guys like that are very wealthy. They just now some of them are very smart and they're charging coaching fees for this, which is
That's right.
this is good. It's all right. It's a smart move. But a lot of wealthy people, you just got to ask them, how'd you do this? Is there anything that I'm doing wrong in my business? What would you suggest for me? And I did that a lot of times with a lot of wealthy people, a lot of physicians, a lot of attorneys that kind of gave me a little piece of the puzzle every single time.
Right.
And then, you got mentors that you can hire for this stuff. But I think family, it's like the fisherman story. Have you ever heard the fisherman story?
No, what is it?
Okay, so I'll tell you guys the quick version. There's 1,000 different versions, but there's a fisherman in a dock and tiny little boat, and a bunch of fish are on the boat. You see this guy in a jacket, look like a Wall Street guy, comes in and says, "How'd you catch all those fish?" And he says, "Well, I go out in the morning. I have a secret recipe. We catch these fish, and he goes, "Well, you have a secret recipe. What if you get a bigger boat?" And the guy goes, "Well, I'd probably catch more fish." He says, "Well, what if you have 3 boats?" And he goes, "Well, what do I need 3 boats for?" He goes, "So you can catch more fish and you can sell more fish." And says, "What do I do with more fish?" He goes, "You make more money, and then we can make a plant and we can clean the fish, and now you can charge a lot more money for your fish." And he goes, "And what do I do then?" And he goes, long story short, he keeps asking the same thing. He goes, "And what do I do then? And what do I do then?" He goes, "Well, you get to come home early and go to your wife."
He
And
says,
then
I
what?
do that right now.
And then what? And then he's like, "I'm already coming home early to my wife. I don't need all that money to come home early to my wife. Like, what do I need that for?" So the moral of the story is sometimes you have everything you already want.
Yeah.
And you think that this journey is going to get you to where you want to be, but it's not the story. You already have everything you need. You already have everything you want, which is your friends, your family, and a little bit of food and shelter, right? Food and shelter you need, obviously. But you have that. You have everything you wanted. So the rest is just a fun game, a fun journey you got to take.
100%, man. I had somebody that asked me one time. He says, "Hey, I want to be a millionaire." And I said, "You already are." And they look at me and they go, "What are you talking about? I don't got anything in my bank account." And I said, "You've got 2 arms. I pay you $5 million for each one. Would you give him?" Like, no. I said, "Well, there's $10 million right there. You also got 2 legs, and we can keep talking."
Yeah,
So, how many millions does it take? You're already a millionaire because you have health,
that's right.
right? You have health. Health is, for me, is always the greatest wealth. There's nothing else in the world that's worth more than that. You ask Steve Jobs on his deathbed, which, by the way, he worked all the way to the end, right? Because, again, that's all he knew what to
Yeah.
do, right? And you ask him, "Give me all the billions of dollars you have in your bank account." I think the guy was worth whatever, 50, 60 billion dollars. And I'll give you another 60 days on earth. You think he would have said no? And that's what it is. And that's what people lose track of, right? But, it's funny, man. The more you go up in this world of entrepreneurship and the more you go up on this ladder, the more, I believe, the more humble you get, right? And the more you understand the value of what you have, unless that money was given to you or somehow you didn't really go through the process and somehow you got it or you got lucky or something like that. But people like you and I that have gone through the whole process and came from the very bottom, I think we appreciate that very much. And at the end of the day, you want to go home at 5 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
the fisherman.
Yeah. And I have a slight disagreement with you on that. And
Okay.
let me tell you, I think yes, you're absolutely right in one aspect. There's a lot of people that start from rags to riches, or from middle class to riches, and there's a beautiful story. They make a lot of money, and they're always humble, great individuals. They had a great childhood. They got a great family. They had everything good. They become a great citizen of the United States or a great person of the world, right? And then you guys got the guys that are just assholes from the beginning, and then they become rich assholes. So now you just
That's
have.
even more worse now.
So now, not everybody that makes money
That's
becomes
right.
very humble. So I think money just makes you an exaggerated person of who you were at the beginning. So if you're a humble person at the beginning, you're going to be a humble person when you have a lot of money. Obviously, you have deviations of people that can turn into assholes. But if you're an asshole from the beginning, if you're an arrogant, person at the beginning, you're just going to be a very big arrogant person when you have a couple million in your bank. And that's my opinion about people and humbleness. Because there is a lot of incredible human beings out there, and there's a lot of incredible assholes out there too that have a lot of money.
I agree with you. I take that correction because you're absolutely correct. You and I been around long enough. We've bumped into those
That's right.
assholes in our lifetime multiple times, and I think there's probably more of them than us in this world, unfortunately. But that's the way life rolls. So, if people are interested in, let's talk about physical therapy. If they're interested in physical therapy, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, physicaltherapynow.com.
Okay.
You're going to have a phone number there. You can call any of those numbers, ask for my number. You have a franchise tab. In that franchise tab, to fill it out, that email goes a copy directly to me. We get on the phone. We talk about, why you want to open a franchise. Is this the right model for you? A lot of times I'll tell you it's not. A lot of times, if you are qualified, if you're a hard worker, if you're an entrepreneur spirit, if you have, you don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to have a lot of desire to make money or just do the right thing and help people who are in pain. Those are the cues that I'm looking for to help you, and you have a little bit of a personality, obviously, that you can talk and have a regular conversation. I can teach you how to generate revenue and make a career out of owning a physical therapy center. And we've had very successful franchises, but physicaltherapynow.com, and you're going to learn a lot about other things. You're going to see entrepreneurs and physical therapists, videos there of their testimonials and all the stuff that we've done for them. And, we'll have a conversation.
Listen, I told you in the beginning, I've consulted for over 1,000 companies, but there's only one Andy Zapata. I give you that, right? And I think
Thank you,
this
buddy.
interview today hopefully shed some light on who Andy Zapata is, because I know you, but people didn't know you. And I guarantee you, the story you told me today, most of your franchisees don't know that, right?
That's right.
So I look for them to watch this video and learn. Because look, when somebody buys a Physical Therapy Now franchise, it's got a lot of positives. There's no doubt about it. It's a clean business. It's a clean operation. It's not like you're running a restaurant. You don't have blue collar employees. You have employees that are responsible. They come to work. There's a lot of positives, right? And it's almost a guaranteed business that's going to be around. AI is not going to interrupt it. Amazon is not going to interrupt it. Somebody has to actually give people physical therapy, so that's going to be around for a long time. In spite of everything that's going on in technology and everything else. But for me, the people that are buying this franchise, it's really a partnership. It's a marriage between that person and you.
Right.
So hopefully this podcast now allows people to realize who they're partnering with. This is a guy that has not only won in one business, but he's won in 30 some odd businesses in his life, and he came from nothing.
That's right.
So I hope this tells people that, hey, listen, this is the guy that I want to partner with. I don't care what he's selling. I don't care what business he's in, but I want to be next to him on his next journey, right? Like Warren Buffett, you look at that guy and he buys whatever stock he buys. I don't care what he buys. I'm going to buy that stock because the guy has more wins in his life than losses in that department. So I take my chances.
That's right.
Right? And it's the same thing. You've had by far more wins than losses in businesses you had. So that's why I hope people can see that and kind of have that trust going into business with you.
Well, Hossein, thank you for having me on your podcast. I really enjoyed being here with you, and hopefully, some of your listeners can learn something and take advantage of the challenges that we had, so they can not have those same challenges and really scale their careers.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here, man. Looking forward to working with you, man. All right.
Thank you, Hossein. I appreciate it.
Take care, brother.